Hello and welcome to another Vegematic show. The world is quite simply going to hell in a handbasket. And it has been for a while, but now it seems to be accelerating. I came across this interesting article over on SheerPost, and if you don't know SheerPost, Chris Hedges writes a regular column there. Because I follow Chris Hedges quite closely, I thought I'd come on to SheerPost and check out what he has to say and what other people have to say. And Hedges did a really good interview on, I think it's Act TV, Juliana Dana, I can't remember, I'm sorry. But there's a great interview with Chris Hedges, and it had been up a couple of hours. It had 38 views, and I'm going, why does Chris Hedges, the best-selling author, get 38 people that are interested in it over 2 hours? This is a curious thing as far as I'm concerned. Just weirdness that happens. Algorithmic censorship, which is rampant across the internet. Anyway, I went over to SheerPost and I saw an interesting article by Robert Reich. Now, Robert Reich is the little guy he was labor secretary in the Clinton administration, so I don't think he was there for that long. He was probably a little too democratic. I don't know, Clinton's, well, I could go on and on, but anyway, he wrote an article about understanding why Manchin and Sinema voted against voting rights. And this is a take that I hadn't really considered, but it makes perfect sense when you think about it. What can possibly explain Manchin and Sinema's votes against voting rights last Wednesday? Why did they create a false narrative that the legislation had to be bipartisan when everybody, themselves included, knew bipartisanship was impossible? Yes, that's a sign of a healthy functioning democracy, isn't it? Why did they say they couldn't support changing the filibuster rules when only last month they voted for an exception to the filibuster that added a debt ceiling legislation so the economy wouldn't go in the toilet, which I'm sure the Republicans would have been happy had it done. So there's that. Why did they co-sponsor voting rights legislation and then vote to kill the very same legislation? Why did Manchin vote for the talking filibuster in 2011 and yet vote against it now? Part of the answer to all of these questions can be found in the giant wads of corporate cash flowing into their campaign coffers. Thank you, Citizens United. But if you want the whole answer, you need to look at the single biggest factor affecting almost all national politicians that I have dealt with. This is the little Robert Reich guy talking now. But if you want the whole answer, you need to look at the biggest factor affecting almost all national politicians I've dealt with: big egos. Manchin and Sinema's are now among the biggest. Before February of last year, almost no one outside West Virginia had ever heard of Joe Manchin. Why would they? It's West Virginia. And almost no one outside of Arizona, and probably a few within the state, had ever heard of Kyrsten Sinema. Now they're notorious. They're Washington celebrities. Their photos grace every major news outlet in America. And I'm sure they get a very sympathetic hearing on Fox and the other, One America Nutcase, and what's the other one? I don't know. Hopefully more cable companies will drop them, because the propaganda is just kind of insane. This sort of attention is addictive. Once it seeps into the bloodstream, it becomes an all-consuming force. I've known politicians who have become permanently and irrevocably intoxicated by it. Does anybody come to mind in particular? I'm not talking simply about power, although that's certainly part of it. I'm talking about narcissism. The primal force driving so much of modern America, but whose essence is concentrated in certain places such as Wall Street, Hollywood, and the United States Senate. And I guess most political senates and houses of parliament and everything else. It's the narcissists control everything, and when they control everything, and the people control absolutely nothing. Okay. Once addicted, the pathologically narcissistic politician can become petty in the extreme, taking every slight as a deep personal insult. I'm told that Manchin asked Biden's staff not to blame him for the delay of Build Back Better, and it was infuriated when Biden suggested Manchin bore some of the responsibility. The Senate is not the world's greatest deliberative body, but it is the world's greatest stew of egos, battling for attention. Every senator believes he or she has what it takes to be president. Most believe they're far more competent than whoever occupies the Oval Office. And they're probably not always wrong, but again and again, I've watched worthy legislation sink because particular senators didn't feel they were getting enough credit or enough personal attention from the president, or insufficient press attention, or unwanted press attention, or that another senator, sometimes from the same party, was getting too much attention. Several people on the Hill who have watched cinema at close range since she became senator tell me she relished all the attention she got when she gave her very theatrical thumbs down to increasing the minimum wage, and since then has thrilled at her national celebrity as a spoiler. It's all about the pictures of yourself and your Fox News interviews and shit like that. Biden prides himself on being a member of the senatorial club for many years before ascending to the presidency, and argued during the 2020 campaign that his familiarity would give him an advantage in dealing with his former colleagues. But they're Republicans. But it may have worked against him. Senators don't want clubby familiarity from the president. They want the president to shine the national spotlight on them. Here, Nick, look, him, her, look. Some senators get so wacky in the national limelight that they can't function without it. Herr Trump had that effect on the Republicans. Before Trump, Lindsey Graham was almost a normal human being. Then Trump directed a huge amp of national attention Graham's way, transmorgifying Graham into a bizarro creature who'd say anything Trump wanted in order to keep the attention coming. Not all senators are egomaniacs, of course. Most lie on an ego spectrum ranging from mildly inflated to pathological. Manchin and Sinema are near the extreme. Once they got a taste of the national spotlight, they couldn't let go. They must have figured that the only way they could keep the spotlight focused on themselves was by threatening to do what they finally did. Shaft American democracy. That is still kind of an oxymoron, though, isn't it? American democracy? Yeah, just a thought. And sort of along the same lines, this is under the byline of Brett Wilkins over at Common Dreams. Utterly shameless former Democratic senators join fossil fuel lobby group. Why not? Environmentalists on Thursday excoriated two former Democratic U.S. senators who announced that they are joining a pro-fossil fuel group that falsely promotes fracked gas as a solution to the climate emergency. Here's a name to remember. Natural Allies for a Clean Energy Future. A self-described coalition of interested stakeholders that recognize the vital role natural gas and its infrastructure must play in the energy mix. Wednesday, former Senators Heidi Heitkamp, Democrat from North Dakota, and Mary Landrieu, Democratic from Louisiana, are joining its leadership council. Biologist and author Sandra Steingraber reacted to the senator's move by tweeting, "This is a climate denial and shameful bullshit." And the future for Manchin and Sinema, a reference to Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, two leading Democratic recipients of big oil campaign contributions. MAGA madness, it appears, has spread north of the border.
Civil war. If people don't want to stand up, we've got guns, we'll stand up and we'll bring them out.
All these kind of people that are just kind of waiting in the wings because they think they know things and they know absolutely nothing. They are idiots. This from CBC News. As a self-declared freedom convoy of truckers opposed to federal vaccine mandate made its way through the Toronto area en route to Parliament Hill on Thursday, the president of one trucking organization said the convoy's original message has been hijacked by far-right or extremist rhetoric. We're seeing signs calling our government communists and Nazis and comparing the mandate to the Holocaust. And if you're comparing this to the Holocaust, you need to educate yourself. What began as a group of truckers against the cross-border trucking vaccine mandate has amassed the support of groups broadly opposed to public health measures in general, with some even calling for a Canadian version of the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. Yeah. In Vaughan, Ontario, truckers were met by crowds of supporters, some with no connection to the trucking industry, but who came out to voice their opposition to pandemic public health measures. While some in the crowd held signs against the mandate, some appeared to be more on the fringe, holding signs like "Join or Die" and "Liberty or Death." One supporter was seen draped in the flag of the far-right group, the Proud Boys. Nothing to be proud of there, boys. Now, what we also see in Canadian politics is the Canadian Conservative Party, that we're always kind of, light, conservative light, has seemed to be encouraging this kind of nonsense that's going on north of the border. And it's like the craziness cannot be contained. It just spreads like faster than the coronavirus. It's the insanity, the freedom people that haven't got a clue, the moronic, the stupid, the imbecilic, the insane, the nutcases, the lunatics are trying to take over the asylum. Last Saturday, the U.S. barred unvaccinated Canadian truckers from entering the country, mirroring Canada's border restrictions to American truckers. So, and I heard that the Drumpf actually supported this crap, and it's like, why do I feel like a Austrian Jew in Germany before, the beginning of World War II? Yes, my friends, fascism is resurgent in the world because it worked out so well in history. And here are some quotes from what some truckers' supporters had to say. Now, 90% of truckers have done the vaccine to cross the border. It's kind of commonplace thing to do. I don't see what the big deal is, but apparently their freedom is at stake. Speaking to CBC News as they rolled eastward through Vaughan, some truckers said they believe the convoy is exactly what's needed as the pandemic stretches into the 2-year mark. It's overwhelming, The country needs this. It's about time, said participant DeAndre Mahedo. This is what brings the country together. Now, most Canadians are against this kind of bullshit because that's what it is. It's bullshit, and it's being the Canadian right-wing Conservative Party, who's also moving in tandem with the Republicans down in America, is screwing us and putting up this bullshit narrative that we're all lost our freedoms and we all should just... they don't understand. And so CBC is fairly fair, and other truckers push back. Other truckers like Andrew Marr in London, Ontario, are less sympathetic. Marr says he's had 3 COVID-19 jabs and sees the mandate as fair. Truckers have known for almost 2 years that we were going to go through this sometime or another, he said. Marr says he considers the battle against COVID-19 to be a collective effort. If drivers had that much pride and want to sit home, then so be it. We'll get the job done. If we have to hire more drivers, it's fine, he said. The Canadian Trucking Alliance and the American Trucking Associations has said up to 26,000 of the 160,000 drivers who make regular trips across the border are likely to be affected by the mandate, roughly 16%. The Canadian Trucking Alliance has said it strongly disapproves of this demonstration. It's disheartening to see the divisions and everything moving north. It's like, I can't believe it. Anyway, this is Vegematic, and I just thought I'd bring you that little Canadian update. Saying we have idiots in Canada too, and there's nothing we can do about it. The idiocy has is seeping across the border into Canada, and imagine that the fascism, once it grows and it's ugly and it gets bigger and it's black and it encircles the world for a while, smashes everything, blows up the entire planet. But it's okay, because my freedom, man. It's my freedom. But what do I know? I'm just Vegematic, and I'm just doing this tiny little thing in the corner of the universe and putting it out there and hoping that somehow, some way, I can make a little bit of a difference. I doubt it, but hey, one can hope, right? Shout out to all my friends, Sandy over at Environmental Coffee House, and of course the Divided We Stand channel over on Saturday night. Come on by. Have a chat. And I would like to challenge Hambone Littletail to come into the chat room on Divided We Stand, because he may not like it. He may think that it's kind of boring and political and all that, and no, it's not. It's really a nice chat between nice people, and never mind, Hambone. If you're watching this, just forget I said that. Don't worry. It's a nice chat room, and we got to be careful who we let into it. Anyway, I'd like to say hello to T.Bone from the T.Bone side of life. Even if some of his videos give me epileptic fits, you should put a warning on those. Who else? Let's see. Oh, Cindy, of course, over at the Revolution Continues blogspot, who keeps on writing and takes it licking and keeps on ticking. The usual crew of misfits and miscreants who watch the Vegematic channel. Thank you, and take care. Have a great week, everybody.
Just practicing my social distancing. Yeah, that ought to do it. I've just returned from a trip to Walmart, and I tell you, people kept looking at me like I was strange or something.